Just how important is your asset allocation? That's the question you want to answer in this video. Welcome to our channel, Million Dollars Made Easy. We believe this is a unique financial channel. We set up spreadsheets to run numbers for you, and we also show you important financial concepts like the following below. In this video, I want to look at the importance of your asset allocation, highlighted in blue here, but we also want to show you the relevance of the 4% withdrawal rule because they're actually interconnected. And we want to show you that in this video. So again, we're looking at the asset allocation, but we need to take into account what your withdrawal percentage is. So let's go ahead and say somebody has 600,000. This is one of the many spreadsheets that we use. This one can show us a lot of information. We're just going to be keying on your asset allocation in this one. So let's say you need 3,000 a month to live on. That's a 6% withdrawal rate. So it's quite a bit above the 4% rule. But what we do on this channel, we use the returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years. And we simply project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future. And that's what we're going to use to run our numbers. So what we do is go ahead and update this for every single year from 1925 on. It's going to show what you would have left after 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years if we had returns like 1925, 1926, and so on for the whole 100 years. Again, this is what you'd have left at 10 years. And for the last 100 years, it'd be 2 times in the last 100 years where you'd actually run out of money in less than 10 years, given this scenario. It'd be 16% of the time that you'd run out of money in 20 years. It's highlighted in red when it runs out of money, and it'd be 21% of the time you'd run out of money after 30 years in the last 100 years, 21% of the time. Now, this is taken into account that if you left it all in the S&P 500, which is not a good asset allocation. So obviously, let's try the recommended amount. Let's go with a 60-40. 60% staying in the S&P 500, 40% going over into some bucket over here. So when the market's going down, you're not taking these sums. This is a sum you're taking out each year for your expenses. You don't want to take it out of a market that's already going down. You want to take it out of cash reserve. So let's go ahead and update this. Remember, it's a 16% failure rate if we left it all in the S&P 500. What happens if we do a 60-40 asset allocation? Again, that's what this video is about. Now, once you notice what it's doing here, it's 22%, not 16. It's actually a worst case scenario if you did a 60-40 split than leaving it all in the S&P 500. You go, wait a minute, that can't be right. Let's do a 50-50 just to show you that's got to be a better deal, right? Remember, 16% if you left it all in the S&P 500. Now we're going to do a 50-50 split and see how many times in the last 100 years you'd run out of money in 20 years. 25% of the time. Here's the actual graph here, folks. You can see these different times during the Depression years, long in the late 60s and early 70s, because that's when we had another down couple of years in a row. That's when it really hurts you, is when you have consecutive down years. And we also had during the year 2000 and a little bit after that. So 25% of the time you're running out of money. Why? How can that be? How can it be better to have 100% in stocks when the market's going down some of these times than a 50-50 split? Here's the problem. This 6% withdrawal rate. Watch what happens if we do something simple as just go to a 5% withdrawal rate. Let's go back to leaving it all in the S&P 500, 0 going to a cash reserve account, just to do an apples to apples comparison. Remember, it was 16% before with a 6% withdrawal rate. Now we're down to a 5% withdrawal rate. Let's see what 0% going into a cash reserve, all of it staying in the S&P 500. Now we got a 9% failure rate right here. See it right there in the Depression years and around the year 2000. Again, 91% of the time would be just fine. Now, what's going to happen if we do a 60-40 asset allocation? We went from a 6% withdrawal rate to a 5% withdrawal rate. I think you can see these are actually tied together. You can't just look at your asset allocation. You got to look at your withdrawal percentage. Look at that. It went down. Remember what it did before when we had a 6% withdrawal rate? It went from 16% failure rate, leaving it all in the market, and a 22% failure rate with a 60-40 and a 25% with a 50-50. Let's do the 50-50. Remember, it went 9% all in the market, 7% with a 60-40, and see what 50-50 does. Calculate 5%. So it actually gets better. See how key that percentage is right there? Let's go with the typical recommended amount. Going back here, just for comparison's sake, we're going to do 4% withdrawal, leaving it all in the S&P 500. How many times do you run out of money in the last 100 years? This shows you the positive, why the 4% rule has been used for so many decades. It's been so successful. You just have a 2% failure rate. If you left it all in the market, if we had returns like 1929, 1930, that's the only time you'd run out of money when you used the 4% rule, folks. When you had returns like this, all these down years, even the year 2000, you didn't have a problem. But again, let's see what happens if we do a 60-40 split. 4% withdrawal rule, very successful 98% of the time. What happens if you do the 60-40 with a 4% withdrawal rate? Look at the numbers now. You have a 0% chance of running out of money in 20 years. The only time you have money problems after 30 years, again, these pesky 29 and 30, 1929, 1930 numbers. But again, folks, look at the graph now. This is the 20-year graph, not running out of money, getting a little bit low around the Depression years, a little bit low around the year 2000. But that just shows you can't just look at your asset allocation. You've got to look at your percentage that you're withdrawing. Because we saw that if this percentage is too high, you can change your asset allocation and even go less into stocks and more into your second bucket. You could still have a worst case scenario where you actually run out of money even more times. Again, we're just using the numbers for the last 100 years. But folks, that's what we do on this channel. We set up spreadsheets, we run numbers, we show you these different concepts and show you how the numbers work out for those using the data for the last 100 years. Please consider subscribing. Please share this channel with others. Let them know that we run numbers like this and bring out interesting information like this, that you can't just look at your asset allocation. You've got to consider what your withdrawal percentage is, because that really affects how effective your asset allocation can be. Please like the video, and thanks so much for watching.